Every serious tradition that ever mapped the path to the light body recognized the same thing about it. Before the higher practices can take root, before the deeper capacities can open, there is a foundational stage that has to be walked first. Something has accumulated inside us that the higher work cannot move past, and until that accumulation is cleared, the rest of the path remains, in a real sense, unavailable. We are going to look at what is actually accumulated, why it consumes the precise energy the transformation requires, what modern research has now confirmed about its effect on the human form without realizing what it was confirming, and why every seeker who attempts the higher work eventually encounters the same invisible wall when this stage has been skipped. Though each stands alone, so no worries if you haven't seen the others, this video is the fourth in a series addressing the light body. In the first, we traced the cross-cultural evidence for the light body itself. Traditions separated by oceans and millennia, all arriving at the same destination. In the second, we opened the Gospel of Thomas and revealed what it actually contains. Not a philosophy about oneness as popular teachers have taught, but a precise technical protocol for activating the light body. And in the third, we descended into the architecture of the larger reality we are operating inside and traced how the fluid world the masters were reaching has become the densified configuration we now mistake for the only one available. This video is the first that turns directly to the work itself. Every tradition that pursued the light body understood one principle above all others, and it's that this transformation demands enormous, sustained, available, surplus energy. The Taoist masters organized their entire lives around energy conservation, not as asceticism, but as engineering. They understood that every unresolved wound, emotional hemorrhage, and unprocessed experience is power no longer available for the work. The yogic systems built elaborate architectures of practice around the same recognition. The monastic traditions across cultures created containers of silence and simplicity for the same reason, to protect the surplus energy we need to undergo the transformation. Energy is the central factor, and almost everything about the world we currently inhabit is configured in such a way that ours is consumed before we can put it to use. Every tradition that developed an advanced understanding of consciousness and the body describes the same foundational architecture. When experience enters us, whether physical impact, emotional intensity, relational rupture, or spiritual encounter, it is designed to move through. The experience arrives, is felt fully in the body, completes its circuit, discharges, and we return to coherence. Deeper than before, often carrying new understanding, but structurally sound and ready to receive again. In that state of flow, enormous energy is available for presence, for creativity, and for the sustained inner work that the light body demands. When experience is not processed, when the impact is too overwhelming, or the child is too young to contain it, or the environment is too unsafe, or the culture simply forbids the authentic expression of what is moving through, the experience does not vanish. It lodges and becomes stored data. And this is where the esoteric knowledge we are recovering meets a principle that modern science has only recently begun to confirm. Information is not abstract, and it occupies real capacity within whatever system contains it. And when information is stored, it requires energy to maintain continuously for as long as it remains. We cannot simply purge what we hold, and so we do the only thing we can. We hold, reorganize, and bury what we cannot process beneath the threshold of conscious awareness. And at the subtle level, we contract around what we hold, tightening, hardening, and closing. The mind may have moved on. We may have rewritten the story, found meaning, built a life on top of the buried weight, but the body has not moved on. The body cannot move on because the experience was never completed. The file remains open, and open files consume power. This applies equally to unprocessed positive experience. Every emotional event that enters us must complete its passage. Not only pain, but joy, love, wonder. The moments of beauty that were too vast to fully receive in the instant they occurred. Whenever we feel that particular ache of longing for something beautiful that has passed, the nostalgia, the sadness of missing what was, we are losing vital energy because the experience was never fully felt, and we keep returning to it, reaching for completion, spending life force on a moment we never fully received. The weight accumulates because reorganization is not resolution. We reshape ourselves around what we hold, and the tension patterns, the reflexive contractions, the postures of defense adopted against what could never be fully met become the new architecture, a structure built on burden rather than coherence. There is only one pathway that restores our capacity, and that is completion. moving the stored experience through the body's natural discharge architecture, feeling it, allowing it to complete its circuit, and releasing it as integrated energy rather than buried weight. This is the path we were designed for, and it is the path almost no one takes, because it requires the one thing every other strategy is designed to avoid: going back into what was never felt and feeling it all the way through. This is why we can not hold the frequencies of the light body, not because the body is a machine winding down on a fixed schedule, but because our available capacity, the capacity we need to hold the current of the infinite, is being consumed by the ever-growing archive of the unfelt. The Gospel of Thomas preserves a saying of Yeshua that speaks directly to this mechanism. If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. This framework, preserved by the traditions through direct perception, has now been confirmed by modern science. Those who confirmed it did not have the language we have just laid out. They documented the signatures without seeing the architecture. In the mid-1990s, the largest study of its kind, with over 17,000 participants, conducted by Kaiser Permanente and the CDC, examined the relationship between unresolved childhood experience and the long-term integrity of the body. The findings were extraordinary. The more unprocessed experience a person carried, the earlier and more severely the body broke down. Those carrying the heaviest burden experienced reductions in life expectancy approaching 20 years. The body degraded in direct proportion to the mass of what was never completed. Bessel van der Kolk's decades of clinical research confirmed what this means at the level of the body. Unresolved experience does not sit passively. The body reorganizes itself around the stored weight, tissue tightens, fascia contracts, and the brain restructures into permanent surveillance, scanning for threats that ended decades ago, consuming enormous energy to sustain a posture we no longer need but cannot release. Peter Levine observed something that unlocks a crucial piece of the teaching. Animals in the wild, after surviving a life-threatening encounter, physically discharge the survival energy through trembling, shaking, and spontaneous movement. The body completes the cycle, runs its course, closes the file, and the animal returns to coherence almost immediately. Humans have been conditioned out of this mechanism. The body was designed to discharge stored experience. The mechanism is innate, it exists in our original architecture, and it was never removed. It was trained out of us. And Elizabeth Blackburn's Nobel Prize-winning research on telomeres, the protective structures that govern cellular regeneration, confirm that chronic unresolved burden accelerates their shortening dramatically. We are consumed from the inside, but the research also revealed something the entropic framework cannot account for. Sustained practices of emotional integration and coherence restoration were shown not merely to slow the shortening. In certain cases, modest lengthening was observed. The trajectory of decline bent toward renewal. We respond to coherence and integration, reduce the weight, restore the coherence, and the body begins to remember what it was designed to do. As we accumulate more unresolved experience across a lifetime, the energy cost of maintaining those background processes rises, and something must be sacrificed. We run on a finite energy budget. When that budget is consumed by the maintenance of stored weight, the system begins shutting down what it classifies as non-essential. What it shuts down first is awareness, the felt sense of being fully alive inside the body, inhabiting every room of the house, the ability to respond to a moment freshly from actual contact with the present, rather than reacting from a cached script that requires almost no energy to execute, the capacity to truly listen, to receive what another consciousness is transmitting, rather than waiting for your turn to replay a stored response, and the felt experience of being here in the living current of this moment. These are the first casualties, because from the body's perspective, survival does not require wonder or presence. Survival requires only that the stored data remain intact and that the body continues to operate at a minimum functional level. Everything else, everything that makes a human being alive in the deepest sense, is a luxury the system can no longer afford. And you can watch it happening to the people around you. Watch someone who has carried a lifetime of unresolved experience and never discharged it. Listen to what they say. How often do you hear something you have never heard them say before? How often does a genuine, unrehearsed response emerge, something born in the actual moment, from actual presence? Or do you hear the same phrases, the same stories, the same reactions, cycling through on a loop so deep, and so automatic that the consciousness behind the words has almost entirely withdrawn. Are you ready for Christmas? That isn't a question. It's a program, a cached routine requiring barely any energy at all. The aliveness that once animated that person, the curiosity and the fire, has retreated so far from the surface that what remains is a shell running loops. The lights in the house are going off room by room because the power budget for stored weight has consumed everything that was once available for being alive. Now watch a child. A child who has not yet accumulated significant stored experience is radiant, fully present, inhabiting the body with an energy that seems almost excessive, pouring into everything and responding to every moment as though it were the first moment that ever existed. The channel is open. Nearly all available energy goes toward the experience of being alive. This is what Yeshua was pointing toward when he said we must become as little children. That is a precise description of what an integrated human being looks like and what becomes possible when the full current of life force flows through us. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. The source does not interface with automated systems running on cached routines. The source interfaces with living consciousness, awareness that is present, coherent, awake, fully occupying the body. The signal is always broadcasting. But someone whose entire capacity is consumed by the archive of the unfelt has no room left to receive it. Everything described so far assumes we begin clear, that the accumulation starts with the first breath, but the evidence reveals something that reaches much further back. Research into how unresolved experience affects the body at the deepest biological level, in the very structure of gene expression, has confirmed what the ancient traditions always understood. The weight transmits. Rachel Yehuda's landmark research focused on the descendants of Holocaust survivors. Her work demonstrated that the descendants of those with extreme unresolved negative experience showed measurably altered stress responses. They also carried distinct cortisol profiles and patterns of reactivity encoded directly into their biology. The stored weight of the grandparents had written itself into the architecture of descendants who had no conscious memory of what had been endured. We arrive patterned with the unresolved weight of our parents and their parents before them, woven into the structure of the body before the first breath is drawn. As we grow older, much of our negative experiences are inherited processes that consume our energy in service of maintaining what was never completed by those who came before. This is what original sin was always describing, not a moral stain inherited from disobedient ancestors, but an energetic inheritance. The observation behind the teaching was accurate, but the interpretation was catastrophically wrong, as it transformed an energetic reality that was always meant to be understood as a description of the work that must be done into a weapon of guilt. Yeshua said, "When you know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father." The knowing he spoke of is the direct recognition through felt experience of what we actually are, what we carry, and what we were designed to become when the weight is finally released. Every piece of evidence we have examined indicates that restoration is possible. The ancient masters, across traditions, centuries, and cultures, arrived at the same recognition. We can be cleared, the energy recovered, and the transformation these traditions all point toward becomes feasible again. What surfaces in the final video of this series is the technique itself, one of the most powerful and comprehensive protocols ever preserved for accomplishing exactly this work. A method capable of addressing the experience accumulated in a lifetime and the inherited weight of the lineage that enters the body before the first breath. The kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth, and men do not see it. They do not see it because we are full of the unfelt, the uncompleted, and the inherited weight of generations who never did the work that we now have the knowledge and the chance to begin. Welcome to the resonance.